All right, February the 16th, 2024. It's a big night, Ronnie. Episode number 10. Episode number 10. So we're here live in Tulsa, Oklahoma with Into the Fire, one of the greatest podcasts in the history of podcasts, or at least that's what we're shooting for. All right, listen, it's going to be a great show. This is going to be super cool. We've got Reagan Ledbetter with Channel 6 News. And to a lot of people that are listening throughout the country and throughout the world, you're like, yeah, what's Channel 6 News? Well, it's the local affiliate right here in Tulsa. And he's going to be a fun time. I just know it. He's going to be great. So I kind of was mentioning earlier, I'd actually mentioned this to Reagan since he's a former crime reporter. And I'd mentioned this to you, Ronnie, because Ronnie's like, what's wrong with you? You're acting nervous. He knows how to read me. And I almost got victimized this evening. Actually, me and my wife almost got victimized. So this is a public service announcement to everybody listening here. If a sheriff's office or a utility company or anybody like that, and this happened to be a sheriff's office, Tulsa County to be specific, if they call you demanding money like right now, or your wife's gonna go to jail, there's something up. Okay. And I've been a cop for over 25 years, and I was rushing around because I was afraid that she was going to go to that. They were essentially hinting that she would go to jail. And it turns out that it was a complete scam from somewhere else in the country. So if you think that you don't learn something on this show, you're learning it from my own personal experience on this. I'm a little embarrassed, but I don't mind sharing it with the world because I want you to not be victimized either. It was really crazy, honestly. Any thoughts, Ronnie?
Yeah, just if it sounds weird, then it's weird. So
it sounded really weird.
Okay, yeah. So I'm glad you didn't get victimized, but yeah, if it sounds weird, it probably is weird.
Yeah. It's a now or never. We have to hello to everybody. Sally, welcome. To anybody that's joining us here on this deal, I want to tell you again, and I try to say this every time. We really do appreciate you joining us, and we're not a show without you guys being here and enjoying it. And actually, the viewership is insane. I hear that the listenership is insane, which is great. And that's exactly what we're looking for. I mean, you have to think about it. There's probably tens and tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of podcasts. Everybody's putting one together. So, how are we going to be different? I don't know. I'm just I think what our goal is, Ronnie and I want to be different each week to an extent. And we want to be positive. And we're not on here talking about the doom and gloom of all of the craziness that's happening that you watch on the news and stuff. We're trying to stay away from that. We're trying to be happy and positive. Wouldn't you agree?
I think yeah. And when we talked about that, I don't remember if it was last week or a couple of weeks ago, I did notice some of the comments made there was comments showing up that they appreciated the variety of people we had, and it wasn't just cops or the doom and gloom type stuff. So I think that's something that's positive that we got going, and hopefully people are learning some stuff, like you said, but also being entertained a little bit. I mean, that's part of this, whether people think it is or isn't, it is. And we're just trying to have a good time and make things better for everybody.
Right. Behind the curtain tonight, Amanda's got the night off. It's going to be Chris DePerno from iDetective. iDetective is another show. They end up airing that on Wednesdays. I want to remind everybody that's watching this that there are exceptional shows that are on here. The Briefing with the Chief, and that's a good one. He's a retired LA County Sheriff's. Actually, he was a deputy chief with them with LA County Sheriff's Office. And then you've got Wiretap that follows us right after this. And those guys, Todd Nunley and his sidekick, they do an amazing job as well. They talk a little bit more about probably stuff that they can talk about when they're retired. We're not retired, so we have to kind of keep it really fun and happy. And that's exactly what we're going to do. We're not getting into the controversial stuff. That way we're not sitting in the chief's office explaining that later. So we're talking about happy stuff, and that's what we're going to do. If you guys have any suggestions about anything that you kind of an area that you would like to hear from, or if there's anything that you would like to see us do different, I mean, we read everything. I read every comment. I try to comment back with everybody. Chris DePerno's got my contact information down below, and you can follow me. You can send questions, whatever. And I totally encourage that you do that. And we will certainly listen to that. Thanks, Barb, for being here. You're a regular guest. You're one of the OGs here every week, and we really do appreciate that. So anything else going on in the world, out in the world of the intel world that you're involved in?
I had some stuff. There was a captain out east asking for some changes to these dashboards that we made for the department that show officer stats. And so I think I've got that figured out, and he should get that update on Monday. Ran into some super fans over there at my new building. We take a couple walks each day for our coffee breaks because I don't drink coffee. So we go walk the complex, and there's been still, as we've said many times, just positive interactions with, there was this guy was a construction worker this time and talking about the show, the first 48, and
cool.
His wife liked it. So had a good interaction with him. And then as far as the show goes, I think we've lined up, I guess, all the way out to April 5th, if I remember right. We had a guy that's pretty much confirmed for April 5th, and you've got people lined up through March, if I remember correctly. So I think people are going to be happy with the upcoming guest. And as we said earlier, it's some continued variety.
Yeah, I'm trying to get a couple that are big time. I'm trying to get one of the West Memphis 3. I still haven't been able to get a contact back from one of them. And I'm also trying to get Leah Remini, to be honest with you, of all the people. If you don't know who she is, she was the one that did a lot of stuff on A&E in reference to the Scientology group, etc. Yeah. But I think she's a freaking awesome person. I just really dig her. So anyway, we're trying. That's all we can do is we can try. And some of the other people that I've already got committed, I'm not even going to mention who they are because you would blow your mind if you knew. And I want you to I want to build that anticipation just a little bit. So that's what we're going to do. But Leah Remini would be freaking awesome. So I've tried to get in touch with her. I don't give up that easy. So we'll keep working on that. As far as Reagan Ledbetter, let's get to it. I'm going to just read you a little bit about him. Reagan was born and raised in a small town actually called Buckley, Washington. And I looked it up. It's kind of close to Seattle, and it's really pretty. It's right at the, you can see Mount Rainier from this town. It's really cool. He went to the University of Oklahoma, and he graduated in 2018 with a degree in broadcast journalism. His passion at the time was reporting on sports, specifically college football, and that actually was his career goal. But he got offered a news reporting job here at News on 6 in Tulsa right out of school, and he couldn't pass it up. Less than a year into covering general news in Tulsa, he found his true passion, and that was reporting on crime. And I'm here to tell you just briefly that reporting on crime, I think that's a premier position with respect to the news reporters. It seems like that's kind of an elevated position, and it's because he's really good at what he does. Basically, he loves working with law enforcement, basically in the community, to tell stories and sharing victims' stories as they seek justice. He received 2 Emmy Awards for his reporting in reference to the mass shooting event, which happened at St. Francis Hospital here in Tulsa in 2022. That event, actually, just to kind of mention this, that event was the very first mass shooting that followed Uvalde in Texas. So definitely there was a lot of people that were watching. Working the crime beat 24/7 can take a toll on you mentally. So in his free time, he goes to the gym, and he likes to run and go hunting. And I know he likes to fish. It's not in here, but I know he likes to fish for bass. And that's his way to decompress and take a mental break. And I love that. So let's welcome Reagan Ledbetter.
What's up,
there he is. Thanks for being here, buddy.
Hey,
I mean, really, you're
here. It's a true honor.
He is most certainly a local celebrity. I'm sure you're recognized everywhere, aren't you? I know you are.
It's kind of funny. I've never been interviewed by like cops who are like can understand what being a public figure is like. You guys go to research just like I do, and people want to stop and talk to you, which is awesome. I like to talk to everybody and stuff. So
right,
it's just part of the job, and I like it though.
Good. Well, hey, it's great to have you here. Honestly, Reagan's been with the channel, like I said, since 2000 and what did you say? 2018 is when you came to Channel 6. Oh, 18. Okay, 2018. And so when you came here, basically, I think what I want to do is I want to start off with this interview. And before you hit it, Chris, just to kind of give you the backstory of this, you had just came here. You just started doing. First of all, you had some big shoes to fill, did you not?
I did. I'll never forget, if you have time to share the story real quick, of how I came into the crime beat. I came in as doing general news, and Lori Fulbright, who's our main anchor and been the crime reporter for 32 years now. She's a legend in Tulsa. And my third day at work, I was just this young kid out of school. And I remember I did my first story. And when we do a story, we have to voice track before it's edited. And I didn't know how to voice track in our system. And so I kind of just said out loud, I don't know how to do that. And I heard this voice behind me saying, Reagan, I'll show you. I turn around, and it's Lori Fulbright getting up from her desk, marching in her high heels, coming to show me how to do this. And from that moment on, she kind of just brought me under her wing. And, it's a joke in the newsroom now that it's like we're like mom and son. We're the same person. We think the same. But she's the one that kind of really got me into covering crime and understanding the importance of it and telling victim stories and being an advocate. And that's kind of how I got into this role. So I owe a lot of the credit to her.
Right. So when he gets in there, he's just a kid. I mean, to me, you're a kid. So when I see you coming in there, you had reached out to me and you were like, hey, can I get this interview with you in reference to a story? And the story was, I had a case, which was, I'm going to say it's the first and only. I mean, there'll probably be somebody that comes up from sometime. I don't know of another case in the city of Tulsa's history where there was a no body case, where we actually took a no body case. And what that means, and we're going to have a no body guy on next week, but what that really means is that we're doing a homicide trial, and yet there's never been a body found. And so in this particular case, we actually got a conviction, and that's when he reached out to me and said, hey, I really want to do a story with the family. And I still am to this day. I'm still cool with the family, and I love them. And basically, you asked about that, and I said, absolutely. We'll put you in touch with the family if they're good with it, and they were. And let's go ahead and show this news story, Chris.
He sentenced all of us to a life sentence, and I think that's appropriate for him.
Sheila Owen and her family have waited 18 years to see Joe Calvert put behind bars. Calvert took Tricia Phipps to New Mexico in 2002 and killed her. Owen says they finally have some justice now, but not closure.
It's bad enough that you murder, but not knowing exactly where she is. We still don't have that closure.
Tulsa homicide detectives followed leads with no luck for years.
It was really hard to keep up hope until Jason White came into our life. Jason is my hero.
Detective Jason White picked up the case in 2009, his first year working homicide. He says 3 years later, Calvert's wife, Shauna Ramsey, helped them break open the case.
She was in the picture back in the day. From that point, she starts talking about a murder that Joe had committed.
White says Ramsey was the key to solving the case and sending Calvert to prison. The Tulsa County DA dropped her charges, and she testified against Calvert, saying he strangled Tricia and buried her body somewhere in New Mexico. White tells me this was teamwork between his team, the Tulsa County DA's office, the New Mexico State Police, and Tricia's family, who never gave up hope.
They're probably one of the most deserving families that I have ran across in this job. I don't know that I've ever been hugged as hard by a couple of them, and I'd be lying to you if I told you I didn't tear up myself.
Just like I told Jason, I know she was giving him high five, telling him thank you, and for not giving up.
Reagan, you're a class act, buddy. That was a really nice story, and I love it. And every time I see that, it really just, it's probably my favorite news story.
I'll never forget that family.
They're great, and they really are. And I'll tell you something with them, and maybe one of these days we'll have one of the family on here, because I'm still super cool with them. And that is that they really deserved justice, and they got it. And I think how you represented that story was just exceptional, and it was just great, and I loved it. So that's just the way that you carry yourself when you're doing the news, as far as I'm concerned. And then from that point, and we'll talk a little bit more, but from that point, what I mean is we'll talk a little bit more about what about crime stories specifically. But then you got elevated to the anchor position, right? Yeah. You're the anchor for the noon hour at Channel 6. And I'm sure that Is that kind of the dream of all reporters? Is that what they're really shooting for, to get to the anchor desk?
Yeah, it is. I mean, to be honest, it's the way to make money in my business. The anchor desk is, you're kind of your prestigious positions. You have different levels of that. The noon position is kind of one of your newer noon or the weekend anchors, or your kind of your entry level, I guess, anchor positions. And I've only been here for 6 years. I've been anchoring the noon for almost 2 now. And so that's kind of how I got my foot anchoring. And then you have your 4 o'clock anchor. Then you have your 5, 6, and 10, your main anchors like Lori. And so that's kind of how that works.
Are you alone on the desk?
What do you say?
Are you alone on the desk, or is there somebody with you?
No, I have a co-anchor. Her name's Autumn Bracey. She came to Channel 6 just about 2 years ago, and they launched us together on the noon show. They had 2 openings, and we got chosen to do this. And so her and I have been anchoring together for coming up on 2 years now.
I was going to ask, so in the police world, people often try to get to day shift just for family purposes and just a regular schedule, but it seems almost the opposite in your world, where people, the best spot or the coveted one is in the evening. Why is that?
Well, I think that's changed. It's changed a lot. The news world in years past has always been your 10 o'clock news was your prime time news slot. And that was where your big stories were. That's the money maker, advertising and stuff was 10 o'clock. You look at just all the TV shows that are on now, and the social media and news is just disseminated so much quicker now. When a murder happens in Tulsa, you aren't waiting until 10 o'clock to find out what happened, because you knew about it on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, in the noon show. I mean, there's just so much news that people aren't turning on the TV at 10 o'clock to just now hear about it. And so I think it's changed a lot, the news world. The 10 is still important, and it's still our big, most watched show for sure. But, the 5 and 6, people are getting home from work and stuff and turning on the news, figuring out what's happening in the day. And those are the newscasts that I'm in. And working day shift for me is best working the crime beat, because you guys are working, the PIOs are working. I need to be able to interview and talk with those people.
Yeah.
So you come in there. No, go ahead, Ronnie.
Go ahead,
sorry.
Jason.
No, go ahead.
I was going to piggyback on what you said earlier. The whole victim angle, I always had great experiences with you. I felt you were respectful, and I really appreciated that. I can remember running to you multiple times, and I don't know why the one time down in Muskogee stands out to me. I think me and John Brown were down there. But I like the fact that you focused on the victims of these things and are giving them a voice and a picture, where it seems to me there's so much gets put out, and maybe even hear a little bit on our stuff of the suspects. And that's what people talk about. And I just appreciate that you focused on the victims. Is there any particular reason that you went that route rather than focused on what the cops are doing or what the suspect did or anything like that?
You mean just in general?
Just in general, what stands out to you of why you want to give the victim story rather than the cop story or the suspect story?
I think what I've learned in my years of doing this, it's not many, but I've interviewed countless victims of crime and family members whose loved one was murdered 24 hours earlier. And what I've always noticed and what I've seen through those interviews is, in a weird way, it's therapeutic for people. And I've had people tell me, after I interviewed them, they're like, wow, this has helped me heal. Because, whenever I reach out to a victim or a victim reaches out to me, I don't say, hey, I want to ask you about what happened. I say, I want to do a story about who your loved one was, what made them special, not about what happened. We're all reporting about what happened. Let's move the story from what happened and the horrific details of that's been on the news, and move to who this person was, what made them different, what were they known for? And people share that, and I can see the healing begin in those interviews of being able to move forward, because they're talking to somebody who didn't know the person. And that's how I start every victim interview. I go, for somebody who didn't know John, what was he like? Mm-hmm. And I've just seen it so many times, and that's what keeps me doing it. And that's what tells me that what I do matters, I think. And it pushes me through kind of the tougher days, I would say.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think that throughout the country, there's a lot of different network or different areas throughout the country where they don't have the relationship with the media that we do. And I honestly want to say that I think that it's a standout situation that we have here in Tulsa, maybe in Oklahoma by and large, where we actually get along with the media. There's very few instances where I can remember where somebody was mad about something that might have been talked about in the news. I know that sometimes we're in a race against time, and sometimes we've had to call and say, hey, hold up on this. We don't want that out. If you can hold back on that, we know you want to do it. We know you're going to do it, but please hold back. And I know that you guys have always been really, at least your channel has been really good at doing that. And really, we're kind of blessed because we've got, most of the channels that are here are really good. I'm not going to say that any of them are bad. They all really try to work well with us. I'm super friends with Sharon Phillips. I love her. Her husband's a cop here. So, and she's also somebody that like you, I think she's very, very respectful. So let me ask you this. No, go ahead.
I think the problem is, there's a lot of anti-media. People want to hate on the media. There's a lot of hate on cops for various reasons and stuff. But I think the one big reason why people hate on the media and the media gets a bad name, and what makes our station and me, I feel like, different, is there's such a focus on being first. Everybody wants to have that nugget of information first. TPD arrested the homicide suspect. We want to push it out first. That's great. That's important for ratings and people drawn in and stuff. But man, I'd rather be right than be first any day of the week. And I think, for you guys, for example, I can't tell you how many times I've known about something, or I've known about charges being filed against a murder suspect, and I've texted your guys' boss, Brandon Watkins, and said, hey, can we put this out? And he goes, no, we're about to hit this house because we think he's there. Can you hold off for a half hour? My bosses are cool with that because we're not trying to mess up what you guys do. But a lot of the problems and the hate and frustration and distrust with media is people just want to be first. They don't care. They'll say whatever. They'll burn whoever. And I don't know what purpose that's serving.
So since you get into the crime beat, and once you start into that, I mean, what's probably the toughest case you've had to follow or cover?
It's a tough question. It's probably for you guys too. When you get asked, what's the toughest one you've ever done and stuff. The toughest story, I think, overall that I've had to cover was probably something that it took a toll on you guys too. And that was the murder of Sergeant Craig Johnson and the shooting of Officer Rush Sarkishan. Because I covered that from the day it happened, the traffic stop. I covered it all the way through. I covered the trial for 30 straight days in a courtroom. It was a death penalty case, which hasn't happened in Tulsa in a long time. They're rare. And I went to Washington, D.C. with the Tulsa Honor Guard when Sergeant Johnson got his name put on me. I've just been very involved in that story. And then just last year, I had an exclusive interview with Officer Sarkishan because him and I have become friends over the last 3-4 years through this story. And he called me and said, I want you to share my story. And it was an honor. And I got to share that story. I got to interview the neurosurgeon who saved his life from being shot in the head. And that's one that will always stick with me just because there's just so many levels of that. One that also sticks with me is the Howard Peoples murder investigation that you guys investigated. It was a Tulsa murder. A man shot and killed his girlfriend and her niece, and the niece's younger sister, who was 12, was hiding in a closet when she saw her sister get shot in the head and hid as he was searching the room with a gun for her, and then hid in a closet, stole her sister's phone, called 911, hid there for 30 minutes. And I interviewed that little girl a week later. And man, that interview still gives me chills just to hear what she went through. It was tough.
Yeah.
How did she handle herself, and how did you work through that? Because I know when we dealt with juveniles, it was just different than you're dealing with an adult who's, obviously just older and has more life experiences and stuff. So tell us a little bit more about that, if you don't mind, like her demeanor and how you handled all that.
I was blown away, man. I was just blown away with her bravery, her courage, and just how like professional beyond her years she was. People always ask me, do you get nervous to go on TV? And I'm like, no, it's just like second nature. Like going in front of a camera any day of the week, I'm fine. I don't get nervous at all. But interviewing victims or victims' families, I do get nervous because I'm sharing their story. I got their story in my hands, and I'm like, I want to do a good job for them. And with this little girl, the family actually reached out to me about her wanting to share her story and about her sister. And when I met her, I was like, oh my gosh, there's no way this girl's 12 years old. She acts like she's 20 years old. I mean, she was just so well-spoken. And she looked at me and said, my sister always told me if something ever happened to me, just hide hard and find a way out of here. And that line just still sticks with me 2-3 years later. And then I actually went to court for the trial, and I watched her testify. And she stood up at the stand and pointed at Howard Peoples. That's the man who did this. And her bravery, I'm still blown away by it.
Yeah, that's great that she did that. And I don't want to downplay this at all, because I think that's great. That it's sad that she had to be told by her sister to prepare for potentially something like that. And I think that's something that's always stuck with me, is that people don't realize, and I've said this probably multiple times even on this show, is like people don't realize how these cases, murders that we dealt with, the snowball effect of how many people it does affect. And that girl's, it's just great how she did and was able to get through that.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. Her bravery was amazing. Got a conviction on him. He's spending life in prison. So they actually did an after the first 48 episode on that case as well. So it was a tough one.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that's important for people to realize with respect to the media, because I see it sometimes. We've been to different scenes, and then the media shows up, and I've heard you guys getting yelled at and like, get that camera out of here and stuff like that. And I think what's good about this, he's trying to pull up some photos of you actually at work. And I think what's good about this is that I know that you guys are actually affected as well as we are out there on these scenes and stuff. If you weren't, and I say this a lot, if you weren't, you shouldn't be in this business. You shouldn't be in your business. You shouldn't be in ours. If it didn't affect you doing those type of stories, I would guess, right? And I think a lot of the people, they kind of forget that. I don't know what it is, but they might think that you guys aren't affected by it, but you are. I tell you for sure they are.
What people don't realize, and I always tell people this, what I put on the news, I get about 1 minute and 20 seconds for my 5 o'clock news story for a night. And it's the dumbed down PG version of a story. The stories that really get to me are crimes against children. I have a passion for that. I work with a local nonprofit, Demand Project, and I speak at their events and stuff. But you read those probable cause affidavits that the investigator writes up to get those charges for child sexual abuse or whatever, and you read these horrific details, and I have to read all that and then take that and somehow turn it into this PG version that can actually be told on the news. And those are the ones that really take a toll on you mentally. It's hard to get those details out of your head. It's tough on you guys. You got to write that stuff. And then, we're reading that. And that's the tough part about covering crime 24/7 is dealing with that.
Let me ask you, so as a reporter, and I've seen this, I'm pretty sure that I'm right on this. As a reporter, a lot of these reporters actually have to film themselves. Isn't that correct?
Yeah, it's changed a lot. It's changed a lot, the structure of it. Because like I said, there's news happening all the time. There's social media. There's so many newscasts throughout the day that they've added a lot of reporters. And so what we have is MMJs now. And that's what I got hired as, was an MMJ, where basically you're your cameraman, you do the editing, you do the writing, you do the interviews, and then you go live on TV at 5 o'clock. Thankfully, now I have a photographer, a photojournalist that I work with every day. So I have somebody that does all the video work for me, I conduct all the interviews. I'm making the phone calls and dealing with that kind of stuff. But I have a photojournalist who works with me every day and shoots a video, and then I write up the script, and then I track it, and he edits all the video and the sound bites together to make it a news story. So it's changed a lot.
Was there a little bit of a difficulty to get some of the cops when you first came in there and they weren't really familiar with you, like the lieutenants and so forth? I will tell you something that drives me crazy, Reagan, and this, I've been saying this for years, and I've told every news outlet. I don't remember ever telling you this specifically, so I'll just mention it to you, because your colleagues or the people, your competitors, are probably watching to see how you do on here. But I hate it when they refer to our boss as the lead homicide detective. We are the lead homicide detective. They are the supervisor of us. They're the supervisor of the unit. It just drives me crazy, and I want that stopped immediately, please. Yeah.
I've never used those words at all. No, I know, I get it. To answer your question, I've put a lot of effort in, my time as a reporter, building trust with law enforcement and really understanding what you guys do. I don't tell many people this, but I'll tell you guys. So I'm telling the world, I guess. But
yeah, you're telling the world.
I can't tell you how many times in the last 3-4 years that I've been this close to becoming a cop. Or a dream job would be a prosecutor. I think it's awesome, but I don't want to go to law school. But I've been this close to becoming a cop. I've had so many police chiefs and sheriffs and investigators be like, Reagan, why don't you become a cop? Like, you get this stuff. Like, you get it. And I'm like, and I've been so close. The reason why I'm not is I feel like my role and what I do, I kind of get that world, that lifestyle. I'm around it a lot. I'm around the prosecutor side, but I have a role to play in all of this. And I think that's what keeps me doing this job. But cops, man, trust is everything. People ask me all the time, how do you know all these people? How can you make a phone call and get information just like that? And I go, well, it didn't happen overnight. I mean, it takes a long time to get cops to trust people. And if you burn it, you ain't getting it back. And so, but at the same time, the cops that I work with, I have friends in law enforcement. I become friends with people that I work with and stuff, but they know that I'm not promising them a positive story every time. And if they mess up, I have to report it. That's my job. And so there's no favors. I still have a job to do at the end of the day, but trust is everything with cops. And that's really how you make headway in getting them to trust you.
I'm glad you said that. It was something I was going to bring up, that despite all that, whether the cops like it or not, you have a job to do. And so I just want to say that I'm glad you're saying that. And I agree with Kathleen, though. I think you should go for it.
My girlfriend doesn't want me to do it. She likes what I'm doing now. I've done the drug bust. I've done the child predator stings, wearing a bulletproof vest on ride-alongs and stuff. So I get that world, and I enjoy it and stuff. But I think what I do is important. I think me being here, and is why I've stayed here. I kept re-signing contracts at Channel 6 instead of going on to a bigger market, is because I finally feel like what I do in this city matters. People know who I am. People trust me. Victims will reach out to me and say, hey, I want you to tell my story. You guys will reach out to me saying, hey, we have this story, and we trust you to tell it. And so I have a lot of those relationships, and it's tough for me to just give that up and go start from scratch in a new place just because.
Well, let me ask you this. How does your job work? You just mentioned something like contracts. Do you sign a contract for a year or two, and then you could be unemployed, or how does all that work?
So the way it kind of works in my world, you go to college and there's market sizes for TV. So like number 1 is New York City, and number 210 is Glendive, Montana. Probably never heard of it. Middle of nowhere, USA.
All right.
Tulsa is around 60, so it's a medium, large market. It's a pretty good size. And so normally you get out of college and you get a job in a Wichita Falls, Texas place. It's like a market 147, I think. And you work there for 2 years on a 2-year contract, and then you maybe move to Waco, Texas. Work there for 2 years and then move to Vegas. I don't know. It's kind of how it works. And so for me, I came here in 2018. I signed a 3-year contract out of school. I had plans to be here for 3 years and then move on to a bigger market, and then be there for 2 years, move on to a bigger market. But the job is more important to me than making those jumps. And that's kind of what's kept me here. But people leave every day. I mean, that's why there's turnover. That's why you guys see new faces on murder scenes, because people are coming and going and moving to a bigger market and chasing their career goals. And that's great.
Is there anything that would, like, with all this crime stuff you've done, would like documentaries be something you would be interested in the future? Or are you just interested in staying in the news stuff?
You mean like working and making documentaries?
Yeah, making them. Yeah.
Well, I think
I'm fascinated by
making them. Yeah, I'm thinking more like being an investigative reporter. You know, what is it? Lisa Ling that goes to South or North Korea. You know who I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
You know, maybe stuff like that. Is that something? I mean, maybe making them, or maybe the other as well.
Oh, absolutely. We watch a lot of like ABC's 2020 or 48 Hours. I mean, my girlfriend and I, we're avid crime show watchers every night, and so Matt Gutman is one of their guys for 2020. I'm like, man, I would love that job. That'd be so cool to be able to do that, because I'm just very passionate about that world and stuff. So I don't know, maybe we'll see. I'm happy with what I'm doing right now. Like I said, I finally feel like what I'm doing matters. And so that's what kind of draws me to keep doing what I'm doing here, but definitely have an interest in that kind of stuff. When I did the interview with after the first 48 and saw all the stuff they did, I was like, man, this would be cool to do all the time.
It is neat. What he's referring to is that when they do After the First 48, which is a spinoff of the First 48, it's basically a much, much larger production. As far as, first of all, the cameras are a lot more expensive. The environments are a lot more, I wouldn't say scripted, because they, we're not given a script, but basically it's just a lot more well done, and they look better. I like everything about the after stuff. Plus, I think it's neat to get your guys' perspective. As far as, I think that's neat. It kind of includes you guys as well. Mm-hmm. And then also the defense attorney's perspective, jury's perspectives, prosecutors, etc. And it gives more of the family too. And I love those. And they're taking a break from that for right now. But I'm with you on that. It's a big production. It's neat, isn't it?
Absolutely. No, it was a good time doing that, and I enjoyed. It was that story of Howard Peoples that I did, and talking about that interview.
And I don't think, Jason, just to clarify for people and for First 48 people and Mikey and Beth and stuff, you're not saying that First 48 was bad. That's not what you were implying. But if people took that the wrong way, it's two different animals, for lack of better words. So with the First 48, there's just a camera guy with us, and similar to what Reagan was saying, that guy's on his own. He's putting the mics on us for audio. He's doing the filming and all that stuff, and just running and gunning with us, and whatever's happening is happening. After First 48, like you were saying, they have a crew and it is, I agree, it's not scripted. It's more structured in that, hey, we're going to be in this room, and here's what we're going to talk about. And it's after the fact. So anyway, I just wanted to throw that out there, that Jason, and I don't want to speak for you, but he wasn't bad-mouthing the First 48 and saying it wasn't good or that the other was better.
No, not at all.
They're just different.
I mean, there's props out on the table. That's not what's happening in the First 48, the real deal, on the first episodes. Yeah. But the after, they may have some papers laying on the table for viewer. Just the view of it looks good. Furthermore, they're putting makeup on us occasionally because we might glow. You know what I mean?
I know the feeling.
So it's a little bit more like that, right? But anyway, no. So I love this. What would you want to ask us, or what's something Well, not really that, because we may not be able to answer something. But what would you like to see better with respect to the police in your world?
Don't hold back.
And be honest.
Well, of course it would be, access. I love ride-alongs. I think it's important, and I always, when I try to get police or sheriff's office to let me come along with something, I tell them, I go, you guys want so bad for people to understand more about your job. Let me show people what you guys do, what the behind the scenes stuff. We do the normal show up at a murder scene, shoot video, get an interview with Lieutenant Watkins, and put it on the news and stuff. But I think showing people more behind the scenes kind of what you guys do, a lot of it you can't show. I totally get that and stuff. Just being accessible is a big thing. But I think you guys do a great job. I don't personally have a lot of issues with Tulsa police, for example. I have a lot of connections in the department where I can call and ask questions. People know I'm trustworthy. I get it. And I know I'm not going to ask Brandon Watkins questions that I know he can't tell me. I'm not going to text Jason about something that he can't give me because it'll get him in trouble. I don't know what there really is for you guys to do different. I mean, you have a job to do. And I think people need to understand there's reasons why certain information is released. I think First 48 shows people a lot of why that is. And I get a kick out of it when I watch the show because I'll hear one of you guys say, all right, let's get it on the media now. And I know at that point I'm getting it from you guys to put on the media, but I know why. It's because you don't want XYZ to know you're looking at that person and stuff. So it's just being more open to work with the media, but also finding people in the media that you trust and working with them. You don't have to trust everybody.
Yeah, I got a great suggestion for you. So one of the things that we have a Citizens Police Academy. They have them in most major cities throughout the country. And for those of you that are watching this show, or for Reagan or any of your colleagues or whatever, Naomi Kitt was what channel was she? Was she Fox or Channel 2?
She's Channel 2 now.
Okay, so Naomi Kitt, she actually attended the Citizens Police Academy. I know somebody from Channel 8 has, and there's been other reporters throughout the years that have attended those, where we talk about the real deal. I mean, when I do death investigation stuff, it is 3 hours of straight death and murder scenes and stuff like that, and I really don't hold back. So those are things that I think that I know you're a busy guy, but I know that those are things that for other reporters or other citizens, if they're looking for something to do to get a little bit more of the behind the scenes and seeing where your tax money is going, that is a great way to do it. And it's free. It doesn't cost a dime. You have to do a little bit of a background, but it's free. And we usually run through, I think, 2 Citizens Police Academies every year. But no, that's good. I appreciate that and letting us know that. And that's good. So it's kind of nerve-wracking for us because sometimes you called me and you said, hey, I want to do a news story on this podcast, and I said, I was like, well, let me talk to Ronnie. I'll get back with you. But I thought it would be cool too to have you here first and really see if you felt good about it, et cetera, and then we can go from there. But no, we do appreciate the fact that if I called you and I wanted to do a news story about something, you're always willing to do that, and you really do a class act job on it. So I appreciate it.
Hey, Jason, I would turn the question you asked Reagan onto you. What would you ask the media to do better, to have better relations with the cops? Sorry to put you on the spot.
Well, I mean, when I'm one of the few detectives, honestly, that will give interviews to the media in the homicide unit. I don't know if you agree with that or not, Reagan, but
100%.
as far as detectives in our unit, everybody goes to Brandon, and then from him, I'm probably number 2 of somebody that is willing to speak to the media. Okay, I think most people, they're just shy about it. And even the guys in our unit that are on TV all the time, they still just aren't interested in doing it. And I don't have an answer for you about that. In my opinion, I think that we have an obligation, specifically with respect to cold cases, I have a vision in my brain about how cold cases we should profile stuff. Furthermore, we really should do more with respect to internet. The internet is the way of the world. I mean, everybody on your Facebook, when you post a 4-minute thing about a homicide, 20,000 people I know are going to watch that, and they're going to click on that. We see how popular that video is, and plus they comment on it. So we're getting the comments, which we don't get that on your news stories necessarily. So what I would like to see is when I go up to this is just me, when I'm walking up to a scene, and everybody that's a reporter, they're super respectful. They're not trying to stop me. But when I do happen to give them something, I've had to tell them several times, don't ask me any details about this case. I know that's crazy for you, Reagan, because you're like, well, what am I supposed to ask? Well, I'll tell you what I want you to know.
Yeah, exactly.
And don't ask me how many times this guy was shot or how many times they were stabbed. The reason for that, and you already know this, Reagan, but I'll just say this for the listeners. The reason for that is, and feel free to add into this, Ronnie, but the reason is because there may come a time down the road that we hear some information from somebody. It could be from jail. It could be from somebody that claimed that they heard it or was with the suspect later on. And those are intimate details about that specific case that allows us to know that information is going to be genuine. That's as simple as that. I would love to tell the story. You know what? I would love to tell the story to the families, but unfortunately we can't do that sometimes because I just tell them flat out, I can't tell you. And the reason why is we can't allow for that to get out onto the streets. And then everybody knows.
That's what's frustrating for me is like, I've been doing this long enough. I understand how you guys operate. And so when I'm on a breaking news scene of a murder, for example, and I'm standing in the little huddle of reporters and I get what I need because I know that's all I'm going to get. I kind of know what you're going to tell me before you even say it sometimes. But you have all these reporters asking the same questions, like, how many times did he get shot? Can you explain where exactly he got shot? Like, just stop. Like, we're doing this for 10 minutes. And
they're really kind of, sometimes they're stupid questions. And I can't deal with because, and you might get somebody occasionally that'll slip up because they don't know any better. Usually, and I'm not throwing anybody down. I'm just saying that sometimes you'll get a police officer or a supervisor that's a brand new supervisor and they just don't know any better, But those kind of details sometimes drives us crazy when you agree.
Well, for example, I had a situation recently. I'm not going to name the case or the people involved, but I had heard from family some details of a murder and what happened and who the person was. And I reached out to homicide and said, hey, here's what I know. And I was told I'd appreciate if you didn't put that out because the suspect was not in custody yet.
Right.
Because only the suspect should know those details. Yeah. And I'm not going to blow up your investigation. That information is the public doesn't need to know that.
Right.
Right. My job is to weigh whether the public deserves to know that, seek the truth, minimize harm. And so I made the choice to, all right, you do that and move on with it. And
let me give you a great example of that, Reagan. National case. And the national case that I'm thinking about is Idaho.
Yeah.
I think Moscow. I'm not coming down on any. That's a huge case for Moscow Police Department, right? Yeah. Massive, way beyond anything that they've ever had, probably in the history of that town. And I know for a fact that there's information that is going to that family. And what was the family doing? They're running straight to the media.
Yep.
They're not getting the response that they wanted from the police, so they're running to the media, and they're not realizing how detrimental. I honestly thought that was going to, at the end of the day, if there was going to be any kind of an issue that was going to be catastrophic for this case, it's going to be because they were telling the family information, then they were running straight to the media. So you have to find that balance and that really safe spot to do that.
And that's what I was going to say, that I agree with what you guys are saying. I think maybe at times the police, we could do better in giving a little bit of information, because if there's a motherload of people there who saw this going on and they're talking that it was a shooting, it's not going to hurt for the police to say this was a shooting. You're not going to say it was a shooting with a 9mm and we've got casings and there was also 45s there. I mean, obviously you don't want to get into those details, but just at times I think there's some stuff that we could say that's not going to destroy the investigation, but it's also going to help the media along as well, because as you know, and you guys, we've talked about, they help us.
Oh yeah.
At times too. So,
well, I'll give you a good example of that real quick. It's the one that really makes me cringe when I hear it. If you want to know the inside, what makes me cringe, it's when the media says detectives have nothing to work with. They haven't found any video, no witnesses. See, I don't want the killers to think that. I want the killers to be looking over their shoulder. I want them to be uneasy. I want them to think that we've got all kinds of information that we're sifting through. You know what I mean? Because it's a huge psychological difference. If the people are cool and calm and they're relaxed about what had happened, then they're not going to trip up. They're going to be chill. They're going to be smoking a bowl of weed or whatever the heck they do after these murders, and they're relaxing. I don't want them to relax. I want them to make mistakes. And so that's just my thing. And Ronnie, you got anything on that?
I would just say that's a perfect example, in my opinion, where we as the cops would have to give the media something that we have, so they're not saying that.
I completely agree.
If the cops are just going to be closed-lipped about everything, I mean, what the heck's Reagan or anyone else supposed to do or something?
And that's what's frustrating is what I try to tell police officers, in departments who are very just tight-lipped and don't want to talk. It doesn't do you any good, because all it does is just create rumors. And I've seen it firsthand so many times where we just don't want to talk. And so we're just not going to say anything. Well, okay. People are going to talk. It's human nature. And then you start getting rumors out there. And then the cops are mad because there's rumors out there. It's like, okay, if you just came out to us and said, this, and this, people just think that when I do an interview with somebody after a murder, I need you to tell me every dang detail. No, I understand you can't, one. And two, you don't have all the details yet. But if you give us enough to work with, it answers people's questions, because people come to us for the answers, because we are the source of information for people. And thankfully, I feel like through what I do, I have relationships with people enough to where I can get that information, can get the truth out there, and it helps a lot. You guys do a good job. It's a tough position you're in, though, because you don't want to give too much. And there's just different levels of understanding from people in my profession. Someone who's been here for a while, I get it. Someone who's new, they don't get it, and they're getting pressure from their boss to get the information. And so then they're pestering you to get the information. It's just, and that's what creates this whole, the media is annoying and stuff.
All right.
Especially if they're wanting to go from the Tulsa market to the Dallas market, and then they're going to do what they want to do to move up, like you were saying.
Again, being first, people choose that over being right. And I'm not going to do that. My boss, or the VP of our news at Channel 6, Griffin Communications, one line he always says is, death can wait. Death can always wait. We're never going to jump the gun, report on scanner traffic, because that's one thing that can wait until it's confirmed we have the information.
And I think all in all, that's why you have the reputation that you do at Channel 6 for sure. Listen, we're coming up on the very end of this. At the bottom of the screen, you may have noticed, if you happen to have a news story, that you can reach out to Reagan via email, and you can send him a news story, even though that he's the anchor, big time. You still do crime stuff too from time to time, right?
Oh, I turn to a crime story every day. I anchor the news show, but I'm in the 5 o'clock news every night. I've done 5 crime stories this week.
That's perfect. So we got to get off of here because we've hit the 54-minute mark. But just in 5 seconds, or give me 10 seconds, what's the dream job for you? You're going to go move up. You want what do you want right now? What's the big job?
My boss is maybe listening. I don't know.
Forget it. We'll talk about it later.
Yeah, I like what I'm doing.
Perfect answer. All right, I love it. Hey, if your boss is listening, coming from 2 detectives right here, you do an amazing job, and we really do respect you.
I've always appreciated him.
Yeah,
I appreciate you guys.
Hey, listen, we're at the end of the hour. We've got to get off of here for sure. Reagan, I can't thank you enough. This has been a ton of fun. See how quick this goes. It goes by super quick.
Way too fast.
I've got a million more questions to ask probably. But listen, we got to get off here. Just for those of you that are listening, please like the KGRA, like our show, go to my stuff, like us, comment, do all of that stuff, and tell your friends and families. We got to get off of here. Thank you again, Reagan, and we will see you again soon.
Thanks, boys.
See you guys.